and welcome to the Raw Review. We are the Dadley Boyz of What Culture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened on last night's episode of Men and Raw. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review Raw, but also SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete with a quiz, of course, on wrestle culture. As I said, though, joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to review last night's Raw. What do you make of the show?
Bit rubbish.
Yeah.
Not without developments, at least. At least stuff happens.
Gotta have developments.
Stuff happens, but I didn't really like a lot of the stuff that happened. And it felt as though WWE didn't realise that their product is a work. This was like, guys, thank God for this draft, am I right? Raw's kind of gone rubbish. It doesn't have to be that. It's not real. Like, I know the draft's coming. I'm excited about the draft. I think regardless of, like I've loved Raw, but I was happy for a bit of a change and a bit of a shift around with some of the characters. I know that it isn't observed perfectly, but for the most part, you get used to a few people that you haven't seen interact with each other for a while. It's good. I was into it. You didn't have to tank your show to get me hyped for a change, and that's felt a little bit like what they were doing this week. I mentioned on the preview yesterday, or I asked the question on the preview yesterday, where does Cody Rhodes go in this draft? Like, I am once again, not asking, begging that it be Raw, because this 3-hour broadcast needs that man. I'm a Damien Priest guy, a bit, but like, this show needs Cody Rhodes.
I was about to make the exact same point. Those are my prepared statements when I know you asked me for an overview of the show before we drill into the minutiae. Star power is that famously hard to define thing. It's referred to as just an it factor. You're or you're on. You can just tell intangibles. If you want to know what star power is, you take Cody out of this 3-hour show, and then you see what's missing, and it's the star power of Cody Rhodes. Not a good watch at all, this. Really, really boring. Really lifeless. We'll get into why.
Yeah, just to clarify that the it factor is not the same it as...
No, that would be the cock factor.
Right, okay, got it.
The original working name for DX before they settled on that.
Different it's, because obviously it can refer to a lot of things. And if you lose the thread of what it refers to, it can get confusing. But that was our best investigative deep dive that we've ever done on this podcast. And mystery solved.
With regards to the cock factor, where does Stephen King's it sit on that scale?
There's no...
Oh, different it again.
Well, some weird sex stuff in it. Some incredibly weird... you won't get it in the films.
Yeah, I've never read it, but I've seen both versions.
Oh, in the novel, there's some incredibly weird sex stuff. In the novel, there's some... why are you writing about this, Steve? Why are you writing about this?
Where's the book, Steve? It's in my hand.
Yeah, it's in my hands, and you're reading it. There's we'll talk about that after the show. Incredibly, it's like, why are you writing about this, Steve? What's going on, Steve? Take a seat, Steve.
So let's get into Monday Night Raw. Cole and McAfee are in the ring to open the show. Pat's very excited about the Battle Royal coming at the end of the evening to crown the new Women's World Champion. Yeah. I'm going to try and stop saying the Raw champion, the SmackDown champion. WWE is the blue brand, basically. The WWE champion's there. And the world champions generally right now are on Raw. As soon as I get this, they'll move them around.
Don't worry about the shows. The world has a smaller WWE logo on it.
Got it.
WWE's on with a big old WWE logo. That's the way to remember. Bayley's and Cody's are currently the WWE because they've got a massive WWE logo. The ones there. What was it? You said like the Ferrero Rocher versions of the world.
Yeah, that wasn't my take, unfortunately. Okay, it was very well observed. Not my take. I never like to be confused with a plagiarist ever. That's really handy to me because I completely forget all the time.
So when it comes to the blue brand, look between Q and E on your keyboard. Is that what you're saying?
I only learned about this about an hour ago, and I don't totally get it.
No.
I understand it as you explained it to me for engagement.
And maybe some listeners have seen it on X. Yeah. Ooh, look between these two letters on your keyboard. I think what this is an attempt to bamboozle people so that underneath, a lot of people say, what's the joke? What's the point? Blah, blah, blah. And if you get enough replies, it becomes a viral post or viral adjacent post. It's another sub-strand of clickbait. about which we know nothing. My Google algorithm, this is more interesting to talk about than Raw, or at least last night's, in my opinion, feeds me content because I've read content along the lines of David Bowie says this is the best album of all time, or Steve Albini says this is the worst band of all time. And I'm thinking, all right, okay, well, and then you get the reams of paragraphs about the biography, and then you scroll and then you find it out. There's another trend as well, and it's all based on getting replies and engagement so that your stuff looks popular and the algorithm will favor it. Like on X and on Instagram stories, there'll be like a clip from a movie. This one hits hard, or this was hot, or whatever. And it's like, they never name the film. So literally everyone's like, well, it's a really brutal murder. Have a bit of that. What's a film? What's a film? What's a film? What's a film? And it's like, well, that looks like a popular post. It's all just a grift. Minutia grift.
That reminds me, actually, I've got another really good tweet I'm going to drop. Probably this afternoon, maybe this evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is right up there with Aesop, Get the Fables, and Paul Grayman, more like.
What was the third in that trifecta?
I can't remember.
It was something to do with Rainmaker, but I can't remember what.
It's Rainmaker, more like Fishmonger. So, but
it's good stuff.
It's another. I've been workshopping this good couple of weeks now, and I think now's the time to really hit the people with it. We need it after this Raw. So stick around. At Adam Wilborn on X, I'll drop it soon. It's good, and it's. You know, whether you're a fan of WWE or a fan of AEW, I think it'll work for both sets of fans. So keep an eye out. So Cole and Pat are in the ring. Welcome to the Man. They do a video package of Rhea having to surrender the title. Blah blah blah. And then main event, Jey Uso comes out. Yeet, 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 yeet. Still a great visual, that.
Yeah.
That's
the best thing about it. Oh.
Yeah. Said Backlash was in 2 weeks. He had a lot to prove. He had to prove he was main event Jey Uso. He had to beat Damien Priest and make everything he went through worth it. Damien Priest comes out. Jay's ready for a fight, and Priest's like, "Hey, calm down." He says, "Look, you've earned your spot," basically, to Jey. Talked about a time in their past where they had a fight, had a match, and Jey whooped his ass. And Priest approached him in the locker room. They earned each other's respect. That's why he wanted him in the Judgment Day. And they went out for drinks that night. Priest paid the bill. He doesn't remember much. Jey says, "I took an Uber." And Priest says, "One thing I do remember from that night, though, is you said to me, 'We're next, Deuce.' And look, here we are. And you were right. Well, half right, because I'm next. This title shows why I'm next. You're just the first on a list of people that the machine is going to feed me to make sure the title looks good on me. Hey, nothing to be ashamed of. You're the first to lead the people and the fans in making sure that they all rise for El Champion." Jay's like, "What?" When Priest goes to leave, Jay's like, What? And Priest's like, "Well, what could you possibly say right now after this?" And he says, "Is that all you see me as? Just another tag team guy? The only reason you're the leader of the Judgment Day is because Rhea Ripley got hurt. By the way, tell Mommy I said hi. And with her gone, you're Dom's bitch. Look, you did what you did. You've made yourself champion, but I'm not being fed to you. You're being fed to me. I'm next." And then he gets Columbus rocking with him to give him some yeet. JD McDonough slides in, tries to sneak attack, but Jey escapes, goes to superkick JD, but JD moves. And Jey Uso hits Damien Priest with a superkick and then says, "My bad," before leaving.
I didn't hate it. I just didn't buy it. Simply put, I did not buy this. And it's a world title program for a pay-per-view that they're kind of basically just phoning in. Backlash has got the 2 title matches. They'll add a couple of other things to the card, but they know the crowd's going to be really hot and invested in whatever they're presented with. Like, if I could have done, I would have gone to like a house show in the wave of WrestleMania and all that excitement and getting to see Cody as champion. If there was one up here, or I could have traveled, I would have done. That's going to be the atmosphere for Backlash.
Yes.
People that really want to watch this. So there's very little pressure on WWE and indeed Jey Uso and Damien Priest. And yet they shouldn't be showing you that with this sort of middling material. Like, they're talking like 2 men that are on the come up in like the Intercontinental title scene, whereas they're fighting for the world title, ostensibly a main event position, One guy even calls himself main event, and none of it felt main event at all. I get it. Like I get the premise that two guys that we said we were going to make it, and now here we are. This is our big moment. It just didn't feel remotely authentic. And I'm speaking as somebody that is sort of rooting for both of them.
Yeah.
Like, quite honestly, there's enough I like about both that I would like to see both pushes work. And I couldn't help watching this feeling. What I'm seeing is two slightly failing pushes colliding with each other. The stuff after the fact, fine. Priest comes out later on and he's sick of the losers. The B squad end of the Judgment Day, he's sick of it. You've got Liv Morgan later on, potentially wanting to take away Dominic Mysterio. Rhea Ripley's going to return as a massive babyface. The Judgment Day coming to their natural conclusion. So I don't mind that, but when they were trying to sell you on a massive title fight, I just wasn't buying it.
I did have a mini panic when Judgment Day were all over this show. There was no Finn Balor, and then after the show,
That was funny, this.
Go on to X, and Finn Balor's dropped that tweet. Well, after 10 years, now's the time to say, I'm signing another contract. And I was like, oh, don't do that to me.
I'm going to go a bit macro with this, so bear with me.
Okay.
Before I go into the segment itself. Triple H is a winner and a loser at the same time,
Yes.
but he knows how to win as a promoter. He plays it all with the long view. He's got that, and I used to love this man, so I feel bad for the analogy, but he's got that Rafa Benitez, ultra-strategic, tactical, I know where we need to be at the end of all this season or whatever. I know how to get there. Sometimes you get the driest, grinding out a result possible, but you always configured it, Rafa Benitez. He's a football manager, for those who don't know.
And you're only talking about facts here, so...
I'm only talking about facts. And then when he was at his peak, he's kind of washed now, but when he was at his peak, it's like, oh my God, look at the end of the season. Manchester City do it to this day. They always peak at the right times. I would describe, and this is a bit of a shame, I think, because I think people had higher expectations of how this would go under Paul Levesque as opposed to Vince McMahon, but he's learned from an evil man who, nonetheless, was the best promoter ever. It's a post-WrestleMania, under Levesque, under whoever, it's boring in a very calculated way. They know when to peak. Backlash is not the peak. To his credit, he's worked something out as Levesque. He's realized, right, what we can do is we can go to unspoiled markets with these really hot, appreciative crowds that on the night will elevate all of this, call it B-level material, phoned in. If you want to be generous, call it experimental. Let's see what Priest does with that belt. Jey Uso's an enduringly popular guy. He can get beat off him. It's not good television. As Hamlet mentions, it doesn't really feel big or main event worthy. But then, if you take the opposite route, the Tony Khan route, dream match, this program we're going to do, you're burning out too fast, and that's where we're at with AEW. That fandom has been spoiled. The WWE fandom doesn't really get spoiled much at all because Levesque, and I hate this about him because I have to endure it every single week, knows when to peak and when to really start trying. And ultimately, he has ensured that the fans will come up at the right time. They might lose interest a certain week, or some weeks they'll feel drab, but then the highs will always feel higher in WWE under that pattern, under that philosophy. So the post-WrestleMania season, I think, is genuinely boring in a calculated way. And that's how he'll win. That's how next year's WrestleMania will feel amazing because he'll know when to peak, when to put his best wrestlers together, when to do his best angles.
And he does sort of smatter it, doesn't he? Because it's like previously, we talked about this a lot in the immediate aftermath of this year's WrestleMania. Previously, you'd have the Raw after WrestleMania, which in recent years was dreadful. But like the week after that, it was literally like, no stars, take everything back, don't do anything. And people are encouraged almost to turn off. It's like, this week, not to the standards that we've seen recently, but like, you have to tune in next week because it's the draft, or like they've put big title
It's clever with it.
There. Yeah.
It's tedious and clever, but that's how you kind of win. I mean, you talk about the best sports franchises, whether it's football or basketball or whatever, find a way to win, even if the experience is quite tedious. And that's Paul Levesque's MO. He's really good at it. He's really sharp. So that's why I think this Raw was as bad as it was, or as bland as it was, certainly. On this segment, when Jey Uso started doing the catchphrase and put a bit of bass in his voice, it was moderately sort of stirring in a way. Hamflett's nailed this from day one, by the way. The idea of drawing parallels between two characters is the way that they build these stories. Sometimes it's really inspired. What's your favorite example?
I don't know. There was a Drew and
Cody used to be the
one.
tag champions,
Yeah,
and people forgot.
Yeah.
pulling that out of the bag.
Yeah.
And being able to like compare their stories and as a way for Drew to minimize Cody's was really smart.
They've been good like that. They have been good. This one was just a made-up thing. But they don't have to do it every time, so that started to feel a bit cynical and charmless for me, as much as I've really gravitated
Cody
to...
and Punk getting to do the, like, I'm more Punk than you, well, I'm more American Dream than you.
Yeah.
Like, that was
was
probably
fantastic.
The peak of the whole
Yeah.
genre that Triple H is, like...
But now that's...
I wish I'd been there for this, like, in person for that.
Yeah, it became formula. It became formula last night, specifically on Damien Priest. This is the WWE effect, top to bottom. There is a alternate universe, incredibly close to our own, in which Damien Priest is in TNA right now. The difference is the promotion and how big it is promoting that particular wrestler. He is not a main event guy. He doesn't have the aura. He doesn't have the craftsmanship. He's got the look favored by the big boy in town. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to minimize everything he's done or say he's completely without talent. He's a slightly more mobile Karrion Kross. He's a tall metal guy that Triple H has obviously identified what his likes and dislikes are, and he likes a Damien Priest. Damien Priest has had one incredibly agented, really looked after spectacle with Bad Bunny. He's always got that. He's got this really bassy delivery in his voice. He's got a fantastic look. What else has he got? It's so ironic that he said, "You're the guy that the machine will feed to me to ensure that I look good." It's like you are saying the quiet part incredibly loudly there. Damien Priest is a Lance Archer in AEW if he goes to AEW.
The Lance Archer of Infinity, if anything.
Yes, shut up,
Hey.
man. I just don't see it in him. I don't think I ever have. And it's a bit transparently not the guy stuff on the evidence of last night's Raw. It's a curious phenomenon, this WWE and who they decide. Like, Punishment Martinez and Eli Drake are two of the biggest stars in WWE in 2024, ... amidst a boom period. It's wild. Tama Tonga, Eli Drake, Punishment Martinez, compared to when they were on the come-up, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, John Moxley. It's just wild how this works. And the WWE effect is a very, very real thing. I personally, I'm not saying I'm cleverer than anybody else. I'm not saying I've got better taste. I mean, I think I do, but everyone thinks they do.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they do. It's just wild how well-oiled this machine actually is and how they can... I mean, Tama Tonga and Punishment Martinez are your two sort of hottest, almost visible acts on your two biggest brands in wrestling right now. I find it wild. And for me, it just underscores how unbelievably effective this WWE machine is.
It's boom period stuff, this, because when you're in a boom, it is the time to test if somebody's a guy or the guy. There's one that sticks out to me from like the 99-2000 boom, which is when for a few months they ran with... Remember when they ran with Val Venus as a heel for Mankind?
Yes.
I hide his book in the bin and stuff like that. And like, I remember watching, not Val Venus, and then like they would try it again with like...
Billy Gunn
repeatedly, TNA, like Test and Albert. There was certain people where it was like, what we are watching is a product trying to tell you that they are the guy, and then you kind of get to decide it. It's that audience power that we used to have, and then for the longest time felt like we didn't. I don't know if we've got that power now. Maybe we do. We've probably got a bit more than we did 2002 to 2021.
Yes.
But, like, to Sidge's point, Damien Priest is a guy that it was clear they were going to persist with. And there were positives there to be found. But quite quickly in the spots, you get to see if somebody is a guy or the guy. And I think that about Jey Uso. I'm wearing his frigging shirt. Like, Jey Uso gave me one of my more memorable experiences, probably all of us. But he's not the guy. Like, he's the guy that goes yeet, and he's the guy that does this, and I love him for that.
Yeah.
But he's not the guy. And
He's quite cool. I don't think he's got the in-ring to do the main event, even in WWE.
boom period's a time to test it because you will find them. You know, like somebody will... LA Knight, I think, is an example of somebody that has maybe shown that he can be. I think maybe the build to the Roman Reigns match was the peak for the character. Absolutely no shame in that. Still trying to work out where he slots in after all of that. But I think there's no shame in that being a ceiling for a bunch of guys that overachieve. But to really break through, there's got to be something more.
Following that, they hype up King and Queen of the Ring. More big developments with King of the Ring to come. And then we got the tag title match, World Tag Team Championships on the line. Awesome Truth versus Ciampa and Gargano. DIY, Regeneration X. Fun match. Gargano did a big dive onto R-Truth to take us to a break early on in the match. When we come back, Miz tries a springboard thing, and Ciampa just nails him midair with a knee strike. Truth comes in and does John Cena's moves, but Gargano cuts him off with a super kick. Ciampa hits a pedigree for a 2 count. Gargano takes out Miz with a suicide dive. Truth cradles Ciampa though and gets a 2 count. DIY hit Truth with meat in the middle. They look like they've got the match won. They've won the tag titles, but no. Miz pulls Gargano out of the ring as he's making the cover. Eventually, Miz chucks Ciampa over the barricade, comes in, and Miz and Truth hit Gargano with their truth-crushing finale for the 1, 2, 3. Nice moment afterwards with Truth and Miz hugging Gargano. Miz offers a handshake to Ciampa, but he storms off. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
This is that sort of thing where, like, you know, I know Sid likes to mock and say, well, some stuff happened. Right, like, Ciampa and Gargano maybe having failed to win the titles. Are they going to split again? I don't want to watch it. I'm just saying there was a development that I kind of didn't see coming. Where's this going to go?
They're going to tease, are they going to turn on each other or turn heel together?
I thought it was quite nice that on the very same night that happened, you had a physically identical turn with Imperium. They did the exact motion that Ciampa and Gargano did once upon a time. Triple H loves his own stuff, loves the smell of his own farts, that big nose of his. Right. All that said, there was something a little bit sad about this. Like, I've been a fan of the whole Awesome Truth run with the caveat of, yeah, but get the belts off them fairly quickly after WrestleMania, give them the moment, and then that's enough. And the fans still with both of these teams, but it felt a little bit off to me that they were with these teams as R-Truth did Cena and Re-X did DX. Like, the spots. They did the Undertaker streak spot in this match to try and get a 2 count in a tag title match.
Yeah.
This was probably the time to put the belts on DIY rather than tease splitting them. So I just didn't particularly support the direction of the booking here. The match was sort of what I want ultimately from a WWE TV match. A bunch of over characters. The work only needs to hit, like, clear a very low bar as long as it's, like, broadly entertaining in a popcorn sort of way. But I just didn't really buy into the directions that were being sold to me here. Like the Awesome Truth, credible act. What? Like, at this point, they're going to start mounting a series of successful title defenses, and that feels a bit off. Equally, DIY, having found the best form of their career together, suffer one big defeat, and it's like, oh, you're an arsehole again. I don't really buy that either. So I didn't really feel like I was supporting the directions.
Yeah, all a bit contrived, all a bit formulaic. This match, I didn't even get one near fall out of it. Usually, with an incredibly mediocre WWE TV match, if nothing else, you'll go, thought that was the finish. Yeah. Honestly, I thought this was pretty crap. Like, just crap, the new crap. The new crap of, well, it didn't move me one bit. I didn't sense any tension, suspense, drama. There was nothing electrifying about the work. There was no great struggle. It wasn't paced in this majestic way. Like this, the new perfunctory crap, like soulless and mostly well executed, but it just didn't do anything for me at all. And it's the new crap now. It's the new crap because there's no such thing really as real old-fashioned crap. Apart from Maxine Dupree, but it's not her fault. We've been through this extensively.
Takes a big old job of chucking somebody around and accidentally breaking their arm to find proper crap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That just, it's not making TV like much now. Like,
Midian used to run the ropes like Del Boy falling through the bar. That's how uncoordinated and crap he was. That's a different crap now.
Yeah.
I would say it's a less interesting and more proficient crap.
Performance Center has smoothed the edges on crap.
Yes.
That's at long last the legacy.
This was a Minoru Suzuki ass Raw. That's what this was.
I quite enjoyed this match. I thought they were going to possibly win the titles when they hit the meat in the middle. And I will say I disagree with you on switching the titles. As I was watching this match, I thought they need to hold the titles here. But with the caveat, a bit like I suppose I'll get to this later on with Becky Lynch winning the title rather than Liv Morgan. My caveat, it's one of those ones where, well, if it doesn't happen, I can't exactly go back in time and say, actually, that did suck. But like, while I was watching this going, if they do decide to have the Creed brothers become the new heel tag team with Chad Gable, they should take it off Awesome Truth rather than DIY. Soon, I agree with you on that one. But I think if you want to guarantee the fans being like, oh no, Awesome Truth losing it, who were just over everywhere rather than DIY that are over in pockets of the country, I think it just works better as a, oh, you bastards. You know, Creed brothers effectively, you know, amazing power stuff that they can do as well, but a bit of the revival of just like, oh, you're just cutting the corners there a little bit, you bastards, and you're clearly out wrestling them.
It's not a bad thing. Like, this is to the point about that Sidge was making about like the way Triple H does it. I maintain, I think the way he books, dry as I appreciate a lot of people find it, does encourage you a fantasy book. It does show you a bunch of fairly obvious directions. That's not a wild pitch. Like, we've seen that the Creeds are likely going to turn heel with Chad Gable, even though it's not there right now. And then you can speculate that, well, pretty soon after turning heel, they've stand a great chance of destroying some baby faces for the belts. Like, I always use the Santos and Wraith as an example. Before the first Reign Dominic match even happened, they'd sown the seeds for Santos becoming the new Sun and eventually turning heel. Like, that was before WrestleMania 39. The outcome was pretty boring in the end, but at least you were encouraged to get excited about how it might turn out. Like, I don't see that as a like that, because I was going to say the same thing about Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan.
Yes.
I get why some people are very cross with Becky Lynch winning today, but this feels to me immediately like there's a big moment coming Liv Morgan's way.
And they want to put that on PLE rather than just I agree.
And I don't know. I think that's probably to the credit of how Triple H does it for me. I think you're constantly shown relatively obvious directions that you can get excited about. How they pay those off, obviously that's down to them. Yeah. But I don't think that's not the old days of if we were reviewing Raw 2019 or something. Well, maybe what that meant was I was guilty of it. Did you see how Kofi crushed the pancakes?
I remember this. I told you at the time.
Yeah. And like,
you're a fool.
It occurred in front of my eyes. So I was entitled to think, oh, that's maybe a new direction. It was dead a week later. It was rubbish. But yeah, now if you crush pancakes, you'd be like, right, it's going to matter. That's going to count down the line.
We go backstage. Priest is yelling at McDonough for getting involved, saying he had no right to go out there and he didn't even get the job done. Then in comes Dom with his mustache.
Oh my God.
And Santos Escobar. And Dom says, look, I'm supposed to team with JD tonight, but I'm injured. His arm's in a sling as well. He's banged up, so he's brought in Santos as his replacement tonight. Priest more annoyed and tells Escobar to handle things. He says, yeah, don't worry about it. More problems for the Judgment Day.
Again, I just don't think if this was an attempt over the course of the evening with him as like, I didn't ask for your interference against Jey, when he's later on cast as like the ass kicker, to use an old Triple H name, I don't think this was a very effective night for Damien Priest is turning babyface soon. Stay tuned. Like, not at all.
Yeah, like
that
an asshole.
Was clearly the intention, and it didn't come across.
It's going to be Finn Balor trying to be like, I'll take over.
Yeah.
But then,
The thing is, if he gets betrayed and they all gang up on him, he's been a knob to them.
Yeah.
It's not as if he's doing nice things and it goes against their... They're basically meant to be these theatrically nasty cheaters. And it's not as if they're like, oh, he's turning good. He's going to desert us. Let's get him first or whatever. He's just being an arsehole to them and they're naturally going to turn on him.
That point you made... when Triple H was in the ring with A-Town Down Under and they did the whoa handshake thing. And you said there's like Triple H having flashbacks.
Yeah.
I could pedigree you both so fast. Like that. That's
funny
that was what Damien Priest did on this show.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny you should say that because you're not an ex at the minute. People have made edited videos.
so good.
Of like
the London and Kendrick one.
Yeah. He's the worst. How's he one man? How has this happened? How have people let this happen?
Yeah, you're so right. Like, he's the biggest loser who always wins.
Yeah.
That's his legacy. Like, when we talk about the complex legacy of Triple H, it can be boiled down to that.
Yeah.
The biggest loser on the face of the planet who's also just won it all.
One of the reasons why he's won it all is because he has Gunther, who came out next, flanked by Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. And he cuts a promo saying he wasn't here to talk about WrestleMania or take shots at Sami Zayn. He's taken some time away to think, and for 666 days, love that, he elevate the IC title to
I love it how Triple H has just realised, hang on, that's metal. Sammy, you're going over.
In my head, he realised he realised that like they used to say sometimes they go, oh, he looks better at Gorilla, so you're going over. Someone's gone, for the graphic, it's 666. It's what? It's today's 666.
So you're telling me that we could have the most metal reign of all time. That's why he's done it.
He's telling Sami Zayn to get some skulls sewn onto his tights.
Yeah.
It's not really part of my aesthetic. It is now.
It is now.
Gunther says his name is going to be forever embedded in the history of the title. For almost 2 years, he was walking around with a big target on his back, pressure of living up to everyone and his own high expectations, but that weight's gone. Sami Zayn, thank you. Now I'm no longer a target. I'm no longer the hunter. I'm no longer the hunted. I'm the hunter. Doesn't matter which brand he's going to get drafted to. He's going to make sure his name is embedded into this new era. He declares his participation in the King of the Ring tournament. Love that, especially with the other name that got added later. After that, it's up to him to decide which title he's going to take next, or Sami's or any others. It's up to him. He says, fair warning, as a champion in the WWE, you will be targeted, hunted by the challenger that is able to win titles and hold on to them longer than anyone else. He's already the general of the ring, and he's soon going to be king of the ring. Gunther.
A very Triple H shortcut, this, and I love them all. Make the tag belts look like the ones I liked. Make the king of the ring be for a title shot. Like, these are those, like, you can go back to, like, I love those Twitter accounts where it's like, imagine if Twitter was around for this. There were forums, it was around. We chatted about wrestling on the internet. It was dead easy. There was actually a community back then rather than just a big fight now. And it was always, even when Mabel won, at least winning got you a title shot. Winning King of the Ring, like Xavier Woods' adoration of this tournament notwithstanding, it's not about a cape and a crown and a scepter, and it never should have been, right? Brett wore it once so that Jerry Lawler had an excuse to beat him up.
Yes.
Owen Hart wore it as an excuse to mock his own brother. Mabel was such a dickhead, and even he got a title shot, right? That was how it should have always been and how it should always go, and it was really simple. And Vince McMahon, A, hated tournaments because a couple of times they didn't draw. B, probably didn't get them because he was so thick and forgetful and all the rest of it. And like C, just didn't see the value in somebody winning a tournament when they don't need a belt, they've got a crown. That's just as good, actually. Baron Corbin walks around with a scepter, he doesn't need a belt. That was honestly how his stupid brain worked.
Roman Reigns did look good when he nicked the crown, I'll say that.
Funny.
Yeah.
Good few thumbnails out of that before he stomped on it. But the King of the Ring absolutely should have always been for a title shot, for some sort of proper prize beyond just a crown and a cape, because winning the tournament's really hard. And they even got away from that as well. It didn't even matter that like you'd gone to the trouble of winning the tournament because it's split out over several weeks. It's like, that's one match every week. Who doesn't have that schedule?
Yes.
Like, so just these little resets are shortcut victories for boring old bastards like me, and it works. And I think yesterday we talked about, well, Gunther should really just have his eyes on the prize of the world title. That's effectively what they've done via the King of the Ring. I don't need King Gunther. It's like he's winning that tournament for something else. Maybe I want King Gunther for a week. Fundamentally, like, no notes on this one for me. Loved it.
Yeah, it comes to something when my first takeaway from this, takeaway Cardiff, was, I don't know, Wattingham. They are not Watting Gunther. That's like, all right, we like you. We believe in you. Like, I told the story of like the Raw after WrestleMania. I don't think I spoke to you. Like, I think I developed this theory, having attended the Raw after WrestleMania, of why, like, there is such minimal noise during a lot of WWE television. And you got a very, very small sample. Obviously, I can only hear a few rows behind, in front, or the people on my row to my left and right. They just are very, very hard to impress. They feel like, because it's that old WWE thing, you're nothing until you come here. You are nothing until you make it in WWE. And funnily enough, the byproduct of that is, if you're a WWE fan, first and foremost, and you're sitting in those bleachers really high up, watching the ring, and Ilya Dragunov comes out. Yeah. Ilya Dragunov came out, you could hear a red piss and canton. And to a degree, you got a little bit of noise, but it was just such a gulf between him and like The Rock, obviously.
And those fans behind us wanted Shinsuke to win.
They wanted Shinsuke to win. And, well, there's a fan behind us who's saying, he's just doing, when he did the German trifecta, like, who's this guy I think he is, Kurt Angle. And it's like, unless you're a star, until you're a star, you're nothing. Until you make it in WWE and get over. Really exacting standards, actually, in terms of what a star should look like without necessarily the in-ring. Why was I making that point again?
Because Gunther wasn't getting wanted.
He wasn't getting. Well, he's been fully embraced.
Been listened to,
fully embraced now.
Yeah, God, imagine that as well. I'm just picturing. I wasn't there for that Raw, but like
The Rock swearing.
To your point, the Rock's just said a swear word over the course of the 40-minute promo that is better than 4 10-minute matches.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got one more thing to tell you because we've not really discussed my experience watching Raw. I thought you'd be picking my brain. What's it like? What's it like? All the rest of it. I don't know if I've told you this. Listeners, skip ahead 2 minutes. I've told this one a million times, and viewers. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Like, have you ever seen Adam Wilborn pissed off?
Don't think so. Maybe once.
Like
If at all,
flustered,
yeah,
maybe.
like the tech stuff. Like things being let down by things you can't control.
Yeah. Bearing in mind, he had just seen his all-time favorite wrestler and childhood hero, The Rock, in one of his best guises ever, one of his best runs ever. He'd sworn. He'd called us trailer park trash. Man,
That bit when he was like, my dad wouldn't like that. I don't care. Oh. All right, Dwayne. I don't want any trouble.
Sinister, funny. Can The Rock have a hold of that belt? I was like, oh my God.
Don't give him it, Cody.
He had us in the palm of his goddamn hands. We could have watched him do the microphone. No, not speaking. Up for like about 2 hours. He was on an overseas trip, right? There was like once in a lifetime kind of stuff, life experience. And he's a dog. He'd be happy with a ball and some pedigree chum. But he got the lifetime experience, the overseas trip, America, The Rock, heel Hollywood Rock in the building. Yeah. The very next thing that happens is that Shinsuke comes to the ring and we're going, oh, debut alert. There's no, the opponent's got to be of note here because Shinsuke's not of note. He hasn't been of note since, 2016?
Yeah.
So, like, debut. Who's it going to be? Ilya Dragunov comes out. I just see, because Wilborn's directly to my right. Pair of hands just go up like that.
It's fizzing.
And I turn around and he just goes, didn't he drop the belt to Tony D then? He was I couldn't believe, I've never seen him this livid ever.
She's so angry.
Like, it wasn't even like, I'm not saying his love of Tony D is exclusively a bit.
Yeah.
But it gets, it's part of our law. He was so angry.
It threatened to derail night one. I don't think I'm overstaying it. Like, the sort of the reality of, he's not going to got this done. Like, it was because it was Tony D's best match ever. And I think I could say that in a year's time as well. Realistically, it was a good bit of business.
I've never seen him, like, legitimately annoyed.
Well, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Ridiculous. Anyway, New Day interrupts.
So funny.
Xavier Woods talks about the fact he's the defending king of the ring. I still think that theme that they gave him was spectacular.
Yeah, great, wasn't it?
Called Gunther a usurper to his throne, which only someone like Xavier Woods can really use and not be like, what? Works really well for him. He's going to cement his legacy, says Woods. He's going to become a 2-time king of the ring. Gunther called him a clown king. Said he was going to reestablish the image of the King of the Ring tournament. I mean, he did it with the IC title, so fair enough. Woods is going to be known as a pretend champion. And Woods is like, that's interesting, because he talks about, like, you drape yourself in gold and claimed you're a champion. It's like, that's interesting, because that's kind of what you are. And Kobe's like, yeah, where's your gold at? And Gunther's not happy. The crowd gets all involved. He tells Vinci and Kaiser, take care of this. And Woods goes, no, we fought them so much already. And then they accept the match.
You have as well.
And Woods says he'll take care of Gunther in King of the Ring. And then we got the match. Anything you want to say about that?
Nah.
Then we got Kofi and Xavier versus Kaiser and Vinci. Like you say, we've seen this quite a lot. Imperium in control after the break. Woods makes a hot tag, hits Vinci with a tornado DDT for 2. Kingston tags in and gets his head taken off by Giovanni Vinci. They set up for the Imperium bomb, but Woods shoves Kaiser off the top rope. Kofi hits a Rana, and New Day hit Vinci with the up, down, down for the 1, 2, 3. Anything you want to say about the match? It feels like we need to talk more about the post-match more than anything.
I thought this match was weirdly rough in places, considering how often they've worked together and how individually talented every person involved is, and how good the respective tag teams are. Weirdly rough. What's going on there? What happened?
I just hadn't, little investment in it. It's the same as your point about the tag title match.
I mean, I just watched this with glazed our eyes.
Again, we've seen this a lot. It was a paid off and done and dusted rivalry that's generated an impromptu match over a tournament that's taking place in a few weeks, featuring somebody that wasn't even in the match. So it was too big an ask, I think, to get.
It was a means to an end, I suppose.
It was for the stuff that followed rather than the stuff that came before.
What was all this?
Well, Gunther's pissed. He just stares at Kaiser in particular before leaving, storms off. And Kaiser, you know something's coming because they're just really hyper-focusing on, well, let's watch the team who've just lost slowly leave the ring and walk up the ramp. But like you say, a nice echo to DIY. Kaiser helps Vinci to his feet, puts his arm around him. Yeah, you're all right, mate. Helps him out of the ring. And then just slams him against the side of the ring, chucks him around ringside, sends him into the steel steps, sets him up like he did to Kofi to kick his head off, basically. But the officials stop him before he kills him. And Kaiser does the whole, yeah, all right, fair enough, I've had enough. And then he runs past them, runs all the way around the ring, drop kicks Vinci's head into the steel steps, gets holy chants. Kaiser, very pleased with himself, marches through the back. Gunther's there in Gorilla. He says, I told you I'd get it done. And Gunther just smiles in a very sinister way.
There was I like that they remembered how effective that
Got their own storyline.
No, the Kofi attack.
Yeah.
Got a lot of praise at the time. Kaiser looked great doing it, and I'm glad they went there again, as it's almost like a bit of a signature thing he does when he's at his worst. And so I thought it was like visually quite an arresting beatdown and a brutal way to end this friendship. And then a bit of a twist, I suppose, because we just all assumed that the Imperium thing had been dropped cold. And we were glad.
Plot twist. We remembered the plot.
Yeah, but glad of it, because it was a weird thing that Triple H seemed insistent on. I'm going to break these guys up. And nobody wanted that. And then they just seemed to go away. And now
people were annoyed when Gunther started having a go at Kaiser, because I know these two in particular, nothing against Vinci, we obviously love him.
He's fantastic.
In NXT, and this might actually be the making of it.
I welcome the return of the model character, because we got just a slice of it on NXT, then it was taken away. So,
well, I think Kaiser's going to be playing the model character. Remember that weird vignette that ran where it was like, did they realize they're not launching the singles push yet? They haven't actually split up the team.
They were casting him as a shagger in some of the matches against Alpha Academy as well.
A big shagger.
Shag General.
Shag General.
This canvas is sacred. It's a bed.
Yeah. So he's got the big heel push out of this. It's just weird how they just seem to just forget about this.
How long's the fix been? Like, how long's Gunther
and,
right, well, I'll let you off this week. Like 8 weeks later.
Yeah.
Got him, boss.
I'd completely forgotten about the tension that existed between the two. But hey, got a reaction in the building. So
I really liked it. Giovanni Vinci kicked out of the Imperium.
Do you know what there might actually be? You might like this, Sidge. There might, after all, be a welcome return of your bizarre post-WrestleMania pushes, because this could be to split them in the draft. And then, who would have been like the Dudleys. He's a reverend now.
Yeah.
Giovanni Vinci gets the model gimmick back because he's been beat up by his partner. It's good. That's how JBL won the title a month later. I'm going to drink beer with Farouk. Paul Heyman's like, well, you could be a finance guy. See you later, Farouk. I'm the champ.
See you later, guy.
Sorry, Ron.
We got an Andrade video package talking about Judgment Day trying to recruit him and blah, blah, blah. He said, I'm not your fool or your servant. I'm now your biggest problem. And then Drew McIntyre comes out, obviously deafening CM Punk chants as always, sits cross-legged in the ring, of course, and says, why do you chant for him every time I come out? He hates you. And the only person he hates more than fans is himself. They're wanting him because they're awful. And he says, say what if you French kiss your cousin? Got him. Some people did.
Straight out the dead man's locker, wasn't it? Say what if you suck your mother? Hear what I did to him, Kane? Every one of them mother suckers.
Say what if you want to buy a crate of beer for the boys?
Say what if you can ride the dead man to Titan back? No, you can't, because I'm in charge of it. Right, nice try, crowd, but I don't sleep.
Anyway, McIntyre calls Punk a coward, says Priest could never beat him one-on-one. He didn't get a title rematch like everyone else. He had to compete in that fatal four-way instead, and again...
Say what if you respect the dead man? Everybody does. I'm the conscience of this goddamn place.
I guess we got 10,000 BSKers in there.
In the four-way, Punk gets involved again. Jey Uso takes advantage like a coward. McIntyre said he isn't going to complain, though. What were you just doing? He's going to come out swinging, and he's going to win King of the Ring. And then he's interrupted by Sheamus, who's like, what's going on, mate? You're not taking responsibility for your own mistakes. You always wanted this WrestleMania moment, winning the title in front of all these fans, and you got it. You had it in front of your family, and then you blew it, mate. You blew it over a social media spat, a meme, and a T-shirt. Look, we're friends. We've had banger after banger after banger together. And as your friend, I want to let you know, one arm CM Punk kind of kicked your ass. McIntyre said Sheamus should know better than anyone what Punk's done to him and did to him when he was younger as well. Sheamus is like, you're obsessed, mate. McIntyre says, we might have had banger after banger after banger. It looks like you've had burger after burger after burger.
It was a good line.
Really
Sheamus did laugh, yeah. I said this to you guys in the office earlier. This goes out on Raw, let's say, 3-4 years ago. You go, oh, that's just harsh. You know, yes, he doesn't look like he did, but he's 40-something.
I think he already looks better this week.
Yeah, he said he's been living in the gym, hasn't he? But it's just, that would have felt like a thing from on high of just like, he doesn't look the perfect image of a wrestler. Let's bury him and call him Fat Sheamus from now on. This feels a little bit more
Vince
like
body shamed Randy Orton in the ring in his prime.
Yeah.
A stack of times you call a neck, you skinny prick or whatever. See you later. And just Vince his way
Said
out.
Rick Rude had gone soft, famously.
In 1990.
Unbelievable.
Piggy James.
Yeah.
What?
But they're mates, and there's boundaries
Yes.
between mates. I'll say Hamlet's a square-headed every single day, and he's fine with it.
Look at him.
He loves it, if anything.
There's never tears on the bathroom mirror down there.
Sheamus had a nice comeback as well. He's like, well, I can lose the weight, but you can't lose stupid. McIntyre says, look, all the guys in the back last week were mocking you, but I stood up for you. And Sheamus like, I don't care what they say. And McIntyre says, I care because I'm your friend. I'll tell the truth because I'm your only friend here, in fact. Yes, we've always been able to fight and have pints afterwards. McIntyre's past that now.
No.
He only thought if it was worthwhile. This wasn't worthwhile. But I'm still your friend, and I'll stick around at ringside to watch your back. It all changed when he said watch your back, obviously.
The contrast here was so brilliant. So, human.
It felt like an actual conversation between real people.
Saying
The highlight of the show.
Saying the same thing, but different personalities see something completely different. And that's kind of been Drew's MO as he's fallen out with person after person after person since turning heel. And that's why it's so effective. Every argument Drew has with somebody, with the exception of Punk, they're virtually saying the same thing, but fundamentally disagreeing on what that thing means. And this is maybe the best example of it, because after last week, Sheamus, credibly, could be pretty pissed off with everybody. You know, he's made his big comeback. He's excited to return. He's had to endure all this nonsense on the internet, and they could kayfabe it and say, "Look what people in the locker room were saying about us." Also, he's not. He's just gonna let it be and let it go. And he's old, and he knows that they've done enough in their careers that they should be able to sleep at night with the comfort of success. And
A nice placement having this just after Gunther, of course.
yeah.
It's
It's just that sort of Sheamus having inner peace is such an admirable quality, and Drew not being able to summon any of it is this negative poison. And it was such a great contrast in the absence of a CM Punk when Drew was coming out, and I was like, I know Punk's not here this week, I'm kind of missing him. Let's get back to the juice this, because it's a really great foo-head that nobody really saw coming between Drew and Punk. Sheamus was just the absolute perfect guy to slot in. Again, lovely blending of real life stuff, a really terrific bit of business that will lead to a terrific little TV match as well between the two of them.
I thought Sheamus came off incredibly well here. Drew remains on fantastic form. And I was talking about AEW ahead of Dynasty, which was great on the night, but let's not pretend that the last 2 weeks of build were particularly great, about how there's just a minimal contrast between too many top wrestlers who are feuding, like Swerve and Joe, just cool heels. Tweeners, Ospreay, Danielson, both great wrestlers. Like that Dusty Flair, dramaturgical dyad just didn't really exist. It's a very deep cut Simpsons reference. And I loved Sheamus and Drew here for the exact reasons as Hamlet has very eloquently pointed out.
And then Sheamus had a match with Shinsuke. Nakamura targeted the neck, but Sheamus fights back, hits a super white noise for a close near fall after the break. Sheamus gets a little bit distracted by having Drew at ringside. That allows Nakamura to come back, hits him with a knee strike. Sheamus counters a Kinshasa into a power slam, though. Nakamura avoided the bro kick, but Sheamus hits him with the knee strike that he's utilizing now for a 2 count.
Kneecap.
Kneecap, thank you. Nakamura gets out of the high cross, but out of nowhere, Sheamus hits him with the bro kick and gets the 1-2-3.
Infinitely better match for Sheamus than last week as well. Like the whole story coming out about him being called back early gains weight, doesn't it? When you consider the,
Phrasing.
Yeah, apologies. Sorry. Hold water. Should we say that's just as bad in a way?
Shut up.
Shut your mouth.
Feels legitimate.
Yes.
I didn't really buy the story, and I do more so because there's rust and there's all these sort of things, and now he comes back and second week in, infinitely better match. There's that Sheamus snap that was missing from like a meat match. Like you would have expected it last week and it didn't really arrive. This was so much better.
I know. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed a televised Shinsuke Nakamura match in 2024. Shocked, I tell you.
To make it explicitly clear, Sheamus looks better on his worst day than I would ever look on my best.
No, I was 20, you know.
Oh, no, there is no point in my life where I've looked as good as Sheamus did last week on
In terms of like athleticism, obviously, clears.
Sheamus still had traps last week. I'll never get traps in my life. Those things that start your ears.
Yeah.
Good.
I'd like it if that was the only thing you worked on for a year. That was just still the same, except just
traps.
Video
Traps and titties.
video package of Sami Zayn and again Chad Gable last week and Gable's turn. Kathy Kelly's interviewing Sami Zayn. He's angry, he's hurt. He had a lot to say, but he was going to bite his tongue because he wanted to hear what Chad had to say tonight. I didn't know how he was going to defend his actions. Bronson Reed turns up and says, you've got bigger problems. Zayn's like, anytime, any place. Reed leaves. Kathy tries to continue the interview, and then she suddenly goes, like that, because suddenly Bronson Reed just trucks Sami Zayn, beats him up. Officials move him away, and then he nails him against some equipment boxes as well and says he's going to be the next IC champ.
How many times are they going to do this? This felt like a
trying with them, didn't they?
rerun between New Day and Imperium, and then they keep trying with Bronson Reed. Jesus Christ, it ain't working.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you do.
I drafted him to SmackDown
Well, I'm glad you're in charge.
on my WWE draft video with Andy Murray. I think he just works on a different show, and it's
That's a blue ropes.
the IC title match. I think you could.
More of a Saturday morning wrestler.
He
In a
could
slightly
be a
more chilled mood.
I said he could be a perfectly fine. If you've got Cody on SmackDown, you could challenge Cody for a smaller pay per view. Just because he's look at the size of him, you get over this.
Oralus.
Yeah, I'm a sidge on that. Like, I can't see any more. I think they've tried as hard as I have, I think, to see something in Bronson Reed. And this goes right the way back to NXT. And I just don't, and I'm not sure I ever will. And Triple H is obviously, maybe they don't see something, but they know they can get
He's not mean.
I don't know what it is. Like,
He's cosplaying as a horse.
he's big. Like, the attack was well shot.
Vader. Is it cosplaying Vader?
Yeah.
Big Van Plater.
Chad Gable comes out.
It's good stuff.
It's not.
It is.
It's just a bone.
He's good. Guy's a writer.
Gable comes out with Maxine Dupree,
Quite the scribe.
Otis, and Akira Tozawa. They're all wearing the Alpha Academy stuff. Gable's in a suit. He says, after what happened to Sammy backstage, it's been a rough couple of weeks for him. But at least what I did to him was justified. Let's think about last week. We tear the house down. Sammy walks out as champion, but that wasn't good enough for Sammy. He had to rub it in my face. I'm sat there weeping in the corner, and he puts the title right there in front of my face. But I took that on the chin. I stood up, held Sammy's hand high in the middle of the ring, and it's still not enough for him. He finds his wife and celebrates with her when he knows I'm standing right there. This was meant to be my moment. That should have been me at Mania with my daughter celebrating, but I wasted my time training Sammy, and I wasted my time training this bunch of freaking losers. He turns around. I love this. Turns around to Akira Tozawa. Oh, what's wrong, Tozawa? You got a problem with that? Well, you say something about it. All you do is do your little dance and rack up loss after loss.
Loft. With some lofts. Alpha.
Maxine Dupree, he says, you're pretty as a princess, but you're dumb as a box of rocks.
Good line.
Oh my God.
It's like really cruel.
Yeah.
I've given you everything. I've got nothing in return. And then he turns to Otis, and you're like, oh, don't. He says, don't even get me started on you. My prized pupil, my number one guy, the biggest disappointment of them all. And he says, oh, well, you're looking so sad. It's what you signed up for when you signed up for the Academy. You're getting honest feedback. You can't be upset with me for any of this. Now we're going to focus on me, and we're all going to win this IC title together, no matter what. No matter what, right? Say it. He goes to Otis, and everyone's like, no, don't do it. And he sort of sheepishly says, no matter what. Gable says, good, and leaves.
They've built themselves quite a few storylines on the back of this. Gable versus Sammy continuation, Gable versus Otis. I was in favour of this. I really quite enjoyed it. Gable came across as a nasty, horrible prick, and it didn't feel like this incredibly harsh pivot, even though he wore the suit. So funny how it's like a suit is heel-coded. You're world champion.
Yeah.
Wears a suit, but that was a bit weird.
They haven't called him Chadwick yet because he's a heel now.
Yeah. I had time for this. It did feel like I don't like too hard a visual turn. Like, I'm not in favour of the Bucks wearing the gear that they do. Gable wearing a suit because it's what a heel does. I don't know. That felt a little bit tell, don't show, try hard, maybe. But I thought his attitude, his demeanour, and his verbal delivery were all very, very good.
Yeah, most of it has been earned, hasn't it? You know, ultimately with this turn. And like we praised the story to the hilt last week.
He's projecting on these his ex-mates.
Like a relatively organic.
Kicking the cat.
Continuation of it. He was, I didn't like him. And that's the point, isn't it? He was a bit like, I don't love Alpha Academy, but I had sympathy for them. And that was the point. Like, well performed. Gable can do everything. He really can.
Well, you love Perk Gable, obviously, already. I actually thought off the back of this fantasy booking in my head, they should steal something from AEW, actually, which was, do you remember when Jericho and MJF were feuding? And I'm going to get this the right way around. MJF had secretly recruited the Inner Circle, right? And he was trying to take it off them. And Jericho was like, yeah, I knew this was coming all along. And then, what happened next? FTR got involved. Pinnacle, all that. Yeah. So I want Otis and Tozawa to finally snap and be like, we're not doing this. And Chad's like, whoa, calm down, lads. And then that's when the Creed brothers come in and just kill them.
That's going to be great as well.
That's what I'd like to see us back of this. I really like this as a next step.
Julius Creed versus Otis.
Oh my God.
Otis on the shoulders for the Doomsday Brutus Ball.
Yeah.
Right. How far can we throw Akira Tozawa?
Yeah. All good spots.
Dom approaches Ricochet in the back. Ricochet's upset because he wanted to kick his ass.
The Hot Company, is it?
But it's the WWE Speed semi-finals coming up. I can't wait for that. Ricochet against...
Have you seen a single outing on WWE Speed on X?
Not on X, but we were in attendance for a JD McDonough performance, if I'm not mistaken.
It was just like a normal match that just was shorter.
Like 3 minutes. Oh my God, what are we faffing about with these long matches for?
Oh my God.
Anyway, after that, Liv Morgan approached.
It's more like WWE Short than WWE Speed, because there was no, like, you know what I mean? It's not Dragon Gate from 2006.
Heavyweight division instead of a cruiserweight one. They're a bit smaller.
Yeah. It's just like these matches are short. They're not really speedy. We're not talking like Masato Yoshino in there, you know?
WWE Short.
That's what it is. WWE Shorter.
Yeah.
WWE Shorter. That's what this should be called.
That's what people want Raw to be.
Yeah.
I did, not to steal from Dr. Fed, but I did prescribe WWE Speed for my mate's son who's just getting into WWE.
Perfect,
Because like short attention span.
Ideal.
You'll love Ricochet. JD McDonough, just like, you're an arsehole straight out of the gate. So
WWE Speed and YouTube highlights of the promos from Raw. You're in.
It's so funny. I was talking to him the other day and I was, raving about Smackers probably. Yeah, that was it. Because he was like, Jackson loves all this. And he's loving it as well. And then they get to like the Tama solo Kevin. He's like, he's like, Dad, why are you fast forwarding? Yeah, you don't want to see it. This is rubbish, this bit. Bloodied Kevin Owens. What's that? Nothing. Carry on.
I wonder what the age is to really be affected by those, because me and Sid have talked about this before. When we were 5 and 6 years old, WWE got dark, brother. Like, you had like snakes. You had one snake getting sat on by Earthquake, and then Jake was like, right, I'm going to go.
William Regal wasn't around back then. Oh, it's Damien. Sorry.
Damien gets sat on. So Jake Roberts is like, right, I'm going to go mental. I'm going to recruit the Undertaker, destroy the Ultimate Warrior, smash up a wedding, set my snake on Randy Savage. And then like that gradually cooled, and then Berserker was like, I'm a Viking, I've got a sword, I'm going to kill you, the Undertaker.
Jake Roberts also, if I recall, used a word that shouldn't have been used in front of a family audience to describe Earthquake's treatment of Damien and will not be repeated here.
Indeed. It was just... there was some unbelievably dark superstars heel beatdowns on those Saturday morning shows.
Marty Jannetty,
Barbershop Window,
Randy Savage of the Cobra. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is tits.
I don't believe in voodoo, but that man's feet are on fire, so Papa Shango's probably a threat.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Jackson first really liked Rhea Ripley, dressed up as Rhea, full leather jacket, did the stomp for their Royal Rumble spot, which is lovely. And I think I told you about this yesterday, but I don't know if we were on a pod or anything.
Shayna Baszler.
No.
Elimination Chamber 2020.
No, he's doing this thing at the moment with not just wrestling, but a variety of different things. He's that age now where he doesn't want to admit that he's scared by something. So he goes, actually, I really like that. So, you know,
I thought you were talking about Sparks. Scared of Asuka?
No.
All right, no.
No, he's Jackson, who's
his son, right? Okay, that makes way more sense.
So, like, I actually really like snakes, probably more than anything. He's a little bit scared of Asuka, so now he's like, I think Asuka's my favourite, actually, with her terrifying makeup and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's lovely to see. Anyway, Ricochet leaves.
Undertaker, please don't lock the Ultimate Warrior in a coffin. I can't get him out.
How's he going to breathe in there?
Ricochet leaves, and Liv Morgan turns up and looks at Dominic's mustache.
This is leading to sex.
That's what I was thinking. I'm
Is that sex?
getting
Liv
major
Morgan and
NXT
Dominic
vibes
Mysterio.
from this.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a sex having energy in the air.
It's
And
either one or two things I want to see. Either Mammy and Dom are at home recovering together and you get some funny skits out of that.
yes.
I was wondering where that was going.
Or, yeah.
The
Liv
full
Morgan-
sex
part
between
of the
Liv Morgan
revenge
and
tour.
Dominic
Morgan
Mysterio.
steal Mammy's man.
Yeah. That's what it felt like to me. That was the energy they were trying to establish there.
This is really NXT. You two can have sex?
Full sex. All the positions. All three of them. I'll look at my favourite
Really
lines
comes
on
out. We've done all three sexes. So,
Garth Marenghi, not my line.
Yeah.
All the positions.
so I'm bombing it around.
Nia
You
Jax.
told me a shoot story of somebody, the IT guy from The Office, as a real life person. That ski guy that was trying to out ski an avalanche.
Yeah.
And then he did a backflip to get out of trouble.
I've seen the footage, to be fair. That's real. I don't know. You know, like you get mad stuff sent to you on it's either on X or Instagram or whatever.
Mad stuff.
It was like, if you know, like there's been loads of stuff like if there was a page dedicated to amazing football moments or whatever, and I think there's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
But it was like if only there was a page.
I've seen the Ben Arthur goal against Bolton every single day of my life, and guess what? I'll watch it again every single day.
But it was like if only there was a page dedicated to like the maddest bollocks or whatever. And it's just a bloke skiing down this hill, and then you're like, uh-oh, that's an avalanche behind him. And you could see it, and he's like, you're not going to be able to ski away from this. You're not skiing fast. You can't ski fast enough. And he just goes, probably just got off that bit there. So there's the hills going down like that, and then there's like a big rock sticking out there, and he just goes, probably just backflip off that. It's like, well, if you fall, that's really dangerous. If you fall, that's it. It's game over.
It's game over anyway.
He backflips, lands it, and just gets away from the avalanche. Like, I'm not even bothered. So it's class. I'll find it for you later.
Probably said you can't ski this mountain again. You're too good. You probably should be professional. Start making loads in IT.
Computers.
Before we get to the main event, remind me of the rules.
Jesus Christ, we're there already?
No, not yet. We're close. It just reminds me because Nia Jax cut a promo saying she was going to win the women's title. Then it was Ricochet and Andrade versus Santos Escobar and JD McDonough. The heels take over after Dom gets involved. He's at ringside. Andrade gets the hot tag, hits Escobar with some dragon screws and a running double knee strike for two. Ricochet comes in, springboard clothesline, standing shooting star. McDonough breaks up the cover though. Escobar and McDonough. Yes, that makes sense. Gives Andrade a double vertical suplex. Ricochet tries a springboard clothesline, but Escobar catches him beautifully with a mid-air knee strike.
First of all, Ricochet looked like a complete geek here, and they took about what felt like 4 lifetimes to get that stereo suplex spot off the ground. This is another pretty bad match.
All this.
Escobar hits Ricochet. He gets him off the top with a Hurricane Rana. Ricochet flips over into a leg drop on McDonough, though. That was a nice spot. Andrade takes out Escobar with that back elbow, hits McDonough with his finisher, which I think they're now calling the Shadow.
That's La Sombra.
Yes, that's good.
Santos Escobar and JD McDonough reminded me of another like dark period of Andrade's career. And when like Austin Theory had to step in for the pandemic WrestleMania. And it's just like he's with like Zelina Vega stable this week. So somebody else has been injured, so like they can fight the Street Profits or whatever we're doing here.
The worst stable in history. Not in terms of like I didn't like them. Statistically,
Yeah.
I remember doing a full podcast about this, going, literally anytime they added a new member, they immediately lost their first match.
They didn't win ever.
No.
I think that was the bit almost. No, this was that. Like the match was boring, and again, like Ricochet being in boring matches is still odd. Shouldn't be at this point. We should be used to the fact that like Ricochet just
Saving
has
it for WWE speed.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't like any of this really, and
You've got us again. This is your new thing. He's worked his way into my head, into my psyche.
And jumping ahead,
The worm.
not a snake. You're charming, like a worm. And then I said this already. I didn't like the Damien.
worm at the bottom of my garden, and his name is Adam. So
I think I was all right for a wiggly woo there, brother.
Wiggly woo. Is that what it is?
yeah, Wiggly Wee.
I think I was suppressing a sneeze. Yeah, I didn't like the Damien Priest thing afterwards either.
They attacked both of them. Razor's Edge to Ricochet and a chokeslam to Andrade.
I'll show you how to kick, yeah.
yeah.
Charmless
Can't you hit him
character
with a
trick.
pedigree, huh?
What a shock that Triple H thinks that's a baby face thing. Give him hell.
Give him hell. And we'll be in hell together. I don't know. Sounds metal, doesn't it? He loves that.
Before we get to the main event, don't get scared, but it's time for the Raw Riddle. Real tough one this week. We dropped the Raw Riddle on the Raw preview, and you give the answer. If you can't figure it out, and no shame if you can't, on the Raw review. Guys, I said to you yesterday, I have branches, but no fruit, trunk, or leaves. What am I?
A bank.
Bank.
Yeah. But will you be able to get it next week? Stick around to find out. We get a video.
You need to have a chat with Stacks, because we struggle typically to get all three of his jokes. I think we've got a pretty strong Raw Riddle record. So I think, if you never see him, because you're always dipping out the office.
I see him on Tuesday.
He's on Tuesdays
Yeah,
usually.
yeah.
What are the chances? I'm not around here this afternoon, and Stacks unfortunately just texted me saying he can't make the NXT preview either.
Oh, man.
He's
It feels like today's NXT preview is going to be like this episode of Raw without Cody.
Yes.
We'll try and make the best of it. It's not you, mate. It's
Oh.
Stacks.
we get a video promo for Zoe Stark ahead of the Battle Royal.
Right file.
Jackie Redmond's chatting to nasty Candice LeRae and evil Indy Hartwell. But before we can get any more barbs from them, bloody commotion off the screen. Everyone's just having a fight. Nia Jax and Liv Morgan particularly. And Becky Lynch just comes up and goes, "Can I take this?" And they do that nice walking promo thing they've started doing.
You're saying nice. You know that Halloween Simpsons where there's that bar in the loft that eats fish heads?
Yeah.
This was the bar in the loft eating fish heads to the Sami Zayn one for last week for me. I just thought, again, like, Becky, she's marching backstage with the microphone, just chatting it up. Stops to show that she's a locker room leader.
Yep.
Pep talk for Maxine Dupree.
You keep working it, Maxine. Time to get out of the ring.
It sucked, didn't it?
Oh, God. I love Becky Lynch, and I did not love this.
This match was poor as well.
She said she's going to be waiting for Rhea Ripley whenever she gets back. And yeah, night 2 of the draft next week, they announce Jey Uso, Ricochet, and Andrade versus Priest, McDonough, and Finn Balor announced for next week. But most importantly,
Oh my god.
Logan Paul's going to be on the show. Yes. Love Logan Paul. The best.
I'm excited for the draft. Genuinely.
Not after this.
Draft.
Not after this. Junior Dr. Fed has been giving out some wrong prescriptions or something, but he doesn't exist. No one talks about him anymore. Junior Dr. Fed is dead.
I tell you, I missed now on the draft. You might remember this, especially with our love for JC Jane and the noise that accompanies her on NXT, which is when they used to do the draft, and rather than it just be like Adam Pearce going, Cody, I suppose, or whatever, when they used to be like, wow, Matt Hardy's going to ECW.
It would be like, Evan Bourne.
Yeah.
No. Jim Ross has got his entire life upheaved.
Play the Raw music. Oh, I won't be denied.
I like the bit when they had to pretend to be confused with the Jim Ross thing. But wait a second, if Jim Ross is here, who's going to... Michael Cole's here.
His face.
It's the worst.
It's
Bastards.
One of the worst things I've ever seen on a wrestling show.
I felt so sorry for him.
Don't forget your hat.
Did the blog the next day. Used to read JR's blog.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
like, it's basically a continuation of the Ross Report, another favourite from mine in Sidge's youth. And he would like do
Why are you getting so fat? So that was every week. That's what he used to say.
The star's potential haunts me if he loses 300 pounds.
Looks like he has, in fact, had too many lambs. That's what he would write. That's what he would write. That's what he would write if it was still on that blog right now. I'm telling you now. It's not me who's saying that. It's Jim Ross in the future.
Hearing good things about Sheamus' lamb consumption in OV-dub. Yeah,
That's what he would write.
he would.
It's not me who's joking about it.
And then in the very next line, because we found evidence of this last week, we're like, hey guys, you tasted any nice barbecue lately? Well, which is it, Jim? Which is it? Am I buying your sauce or not? Because I want to be a WWE superstar. Yeah? Yeah, on his blog the next day, it was like, oh, JR, I don't know if he's going to go to SmackDown next week. He's basically quitting on the spot. Had to be talked around straight on the internet. Give him mail. Probably feeding some stuff to Meltzer.
Yeah.
I'll show him.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Main event time, Battle Royal
Never confirmed that.
No.
for the vacant Women's
Never
World
reveals his
Championship.
sources. That's just my speculation. Dave Meltzer, nothing but a professional.
He's never revealed the source in
Never,
his
ever.
life. Well, I might have once. Carry on. Shut up. Just talk about this rubbish battle royal, please.
Maxine Dupree.
I understand they call bangers sausages in some parts of the world.
Maxine Dupree gets the first 2 eliminations. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell dumped out. That's going well for them then. Carter and Chance work together, but Baszler and Stark get the better of them. Baszler knocks Chance onto Carter's shoulders, I think it was on the apron, and then Stark super kicked them off to eliminate both of them. I suppose they can get to the club quicker.
No, I hate their little chats in ring. My turn. Now you do it. Like, you know that the monkey flip spot. They do that, don't they?
Now let's dance.
What does the even do? 'Cause
Creates
it looks like a T-shirt cannon that they forgot to put T-shirts in.
it's a vibes cannon, Will.
Oh, okay.
it creates vibes of the club. but in
Well, I'm
the
sure it
arena.
works in the club with all the flashing lights and stuff.
Do they do a pyro effect for certain things where it's the noise of pyro without the actual pyro?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they do that sometimes at Mania. They'd go bang, and I'd be like,
Yeah, what's that?
My favourite ever was where Drew cut the ropes with his sword and it went bang, like all ropes do when you cut them. Bang! You could have stabbed somebody. Not for me. I'm cutting these banger ropes.
dear.
Those ropes have more bangs than Sheamus, so that's good old JR.
It's what he used to do
Every week.
constantly.
Every week.
It looks like he's getting like 280 now. And for an ideal weight would be 265.
Just what could be his potential? That's what this old Ogie's asking. I don't think that's what you're asking, Jim.
Some weight.
That's basically,
Yeah, that's what he said on the Ross Report in the early to mid 2000s. Every single week, his entire instructions was lose some weight.
Another great week for the rattlesnake line. Hey, fatty, you're fat. See you next week from under the black hat. It was must read, honestly.
Yeah.
man.
Honestly, it was like a little peek inside.
It was.
Like,
He was like putting over people and you could read between the lines. He was full of hatred for certain talents and you knew about it.
how can I crack the code on this one? Oh, yeah.
I loved the euphemisms, the cliches, and what he actually meant. He needs to add a little bit of sizzle to his steak. You're boring. You're boring my ass off, and I have to sit there and watch, and this old Loki's tired.
Unlimited potential in some of the radicals. Dean Malenko's also here.
That was Jim. Not us. That was Jim.
Nia Jax, who looked great in here, slammed Ivy Nile into the ring post to eliminate her. They did do this.
Oh my God, that looked reckless as hell. It was the most sick spot of the otherwise really bland match.
They did do the spot that you said where they all jump a little bit anyway. Dupree was like, "Don't do that to my friend." So Jackson dumped her out after Dupree hit her with some kicks. Becky Lynch eliminated Piper Niven, kicked her off the apron. So Niven dragged her under the bottom rope, shoved her into the steel steps, hit a cannonball, put her on the announce table, set all that up. I think she grabbed Nia Jax's leg because I think Chelsea Green was on her back, basically. Jax just comes out, chokeslams, and Samoan drops, piping even onto Becky Lynch. Neither of these things break the table, by the way.
Added to it.
I'll tell you what else.
My favourite part of the match by far was the thing that they didn't intend to do.
And I really liked Chelsea Green being eliminated by Natalya and then realising no one's actually seen this. I'm just going to sit on the apron and just eventually get back in. During the break, Jax was like, well, I'm breaking this sodding table, so she just powerbombed Lynch through it. Stark eliminated Chelsea Green. Shayna Baszler eliminated Natalya, allowing her to prepare for an NXT Underground contract signing on spring break. A little bit later on.
He's just excited. He's not going to get the chance to do it, unfortunately.
Then Jax eliminated Stark and Baszler later. That leaves us with Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, and a crawling back into the ring, Becky Lynch. Morgan hit Jax with a code breaker. Lynch hit Morgan with a neck breaker at the same time. And then Jax just hit both of them with Samoan drops. Jax tried to eliminate Liv and Becky at the same time, but they fight her off. They tried to double suplex, but Jax suplexes both of them instead. Drags the bodies over to the corner for the annihilation, but Becky Lynch shoves her over the top rope, and as she's trying to get back in, Morgan hit him with a code breaker, Lynch hit a dropkick, and Nia Jax was eliminated. Devoed about that one. But it was Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch as the final two. They fight out onto the apron. I'm fairly certain Becky Lynch actually went between the top and middle ropes, but at that point, Morgan hits a code breaker. Becky Lynch stumbles into the corner. Morgan tries the Oblivion, but Lynch counters, manhandle slams Liv Morgan onto the apron, and that drops her out of the ring. Becky Lynch wins. She is the new Women's World Champion. She celebrates in the crowd, and there's kids there. She's getting selfies and what have you. Fireworks are all going off, and that closes out the show.
This was not uncreative, but just the bulk of the division aren't over.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they didn't just throw them out there with no ideas. There was lots of little spots. There was little chapter points within the match. And as far as battle royals go, it's the best you can ever really expect. Did you notice, by the way, the hyper defensive commentary? We talk about Michael Cole off the leash. I'm pretty sure he was fed all the lines about how there's actually been loads of titles deciding battle royals. So shut up, critics. Kurt Angle did. He's your favourite, isn't he? Gail Kim, you like her. So why don't you shut the up about battle royals and belts? Leave the game alone. That was very much the sort of he did it and she did it and he did it and they were there. So
Carly did it once.
Yeah, held the belt upside down. It was good. So as far as battle royals go, it's the best you can really expect. But just so much of the division is not over. So the fact that it got down to these three was no surprise. Mm-hmm. They were the only realistic winners. And the Becky Lynch thing, long term, is the right call. I know I was saying yesterday, you kind of have to have Liv win, have to have a Liv win now. I did see the vision a little bit here.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch has won that title, but it didn't send her out in the crowd to get that big sort of celebratory, we did it, guys, and the energy wasn't really there for it. And I think that shows you now that people are more than okay with Becky Lynch stepping out of that main event picture, and you can sort of follow Liv Morgan. You can track Liv Morgan's anger here to the point that when she finally beats Becky, it will mean something.
Yeah.
Even as a heel, she'll probably cheat to do it as well, but it will mean something. You get her strapped up in time for Rhea Ripley coming back. This does benefit Liv. I would just beg of the Liv Morgan stands to be patient. I don't think any of this was a bad night for her at all.
They tried to feature most heavily the wrestlers who have got half a connection with the audience, to the point that when obviously it wasn't their idea to elongate that spot on the outside, it was the table just didn't play ball. But it was one of those things where they're probably glad it didn't, because it just distracted from the people who are not over in the middle of that ring. Guess you could argue that the winner was uninspiring. Some of the action, when you watch Raw after you watch an AEW pay-per-view, not after every Dynamite, like Gable and Sammy last week was better than anything on Dynamite last week for my money. But after an AEW pay-per-view, Raw's just quite hard to watch generally. And then this Battle Royal in particular was quite difficult. Becky Lynch as a safe pair of hands choice, I guess what you could do is build a Liv Becky program and just eat into that injury time from Rhea. So by the time Liv Morgan wins the title, she's closer to Rhea than she is further away. So I reckon it makes sense.
I think it was 100% the right call. I was watching this, and especially when it got down to that final three, especially when Nia Jax
It's an indictment of the division that there was so few options.
Yeah, I agree. But I was watching that and going, you have to have Becky win this. It felt like that was what they were doing anyway with the old classic babyface. Oh, she's been definitely taken out of this match. Oh, she's made it back in. But I was watching this going, you put the title on Liv here. There's not so much fanfare because you just want a battle royal rather than pinning anyone, which isn't a great start to a heel champion run anyway. And I'm watching that going, okay, so if Liv, let's say Liv wins, and you do her versus Becky, maybe you can delay it past Backlash, into the next pay-per-view, whatever it may be. Then what? I know you can draft people over, but like you put the title on Becky, you can do Becky versus Nia again.
Ugh.
I really enjoyed the match of the year for me to start 2024. Then you can have Becky versus Liv. Like you're saying, you just, as Sid said, you can eat into that because it's what, 6 months? It's like 6 weeks to get full mobility and then a few more months to, maybe less than 6 months, in fact. So, yeah, and then you can have Liv win the title from Becky, defend it again against Becky if you want to do something on telly, or just have babyface that you've brought up. Let's say you bring up Roxanne Perez or someone from NXT as a babyface. You have one defense and then you bring Rhea. I think it's the right call.
Half the job of bringing those tournaments back wasn't just to give them stakes, but it was to like book them in an entertaining way as well. And there's really cool ways to have heels win tournaments. You get buys, you like sneak through. There's a babyface that's had to work substantially harder. Liv could have that heel route. You then have Money in the Bank not long after that, so she could have that route again. She got it once before and didn't achieve what she wanted to with it. There are a lot of ways to get to Liv as a number one contender that, as you say, are far more interesting than just strapping her up in a battle royal and then having to sit with that for months and months. I think her summer's going to be absolutely fine, and the Liv and Rhea thing gets to sit there in the background now.
Live and let it play out. So, let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed in the comment section below or on X.
They say it when you're number one, why try harder? And then you come out with something like that and you explain why.
At What Culture WWE on X.
I think we're number two, actually, because the goddamn Dead Man.
No, Dead Man's kicking our ass. That's what he does.
That's right. We need to learn to respect the business. We're getting our asses taken to wrestlers' court on a daily basis.
He's always on top.
You can follow.
He's allowed to spoil where WrestleMania is. We haven't got ammo in the chamber like that. I hear it's in Vegas. Click, 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 click. And what have we got? We can't compete with that.
No. We can follow Michael Hamflett on X, though, at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. As I said, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts, NXT preview, spring break, and coming your way a little bit later on today. But for now, this has been the Raw review. My thanks to Hamflett Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.